Hey, good afternoon. It's your girl, Jersey Love Steph, and I just want to welcome you in. I just want to tell you, I just want to discuss this because as I've been studying the Holocaust and everything, I just read a little bit about it. It's terrible. 6 million Jews were killed in terrible ways, concentration camps, they were gassed. They were, my thoughts and prayers go out to them, but I'm not the same person as I was yesterday. I mean, I'm Stephanie, but I'm not the same way because when you read about history, you understand. If we don't learn about our history, we're doomed to repeat it, And Adolf Hitler killed 11 million people. This is documented historical facts. It's proven, okay? And they tried to cover it up, but they couldn't. And the evidence is there. Hey, Demi, how are you? So I did make some shorts, but the language is not politically correct. And so 6 million people Hitler killed, Jewish, because he hated Jewish people. So his plan was to exterminate all of Europe, and Europe nations joined him. And I guess this is what World War II is about, but that was his master plan. It was to annihilate all Jewish people, okay? So going back in history, Pharaoh, the firstborn male out of the family was supposed to be killed by the midwives delivering the babies, but then they didn't because they feared God. So then they were supposed to throw the firstborn into the Nile River, every boy, but the girls were supposed to live. So history repeats itself, but worse. When it repeats itself, it's even worse. And then 5 million people were also killed. So all right, so let's say same-sex marriage. Maybe you're in a relationship with maybe you're a man with a man or whatever. I don't know how the politically correct term is, but the video I made earlier was not, I was reading off of a book, but when I read it, it's like a slur. And it's offensive because in my family, I have people that are married to same-sex marriage. And then now I think the cause something they did. I don't know all the laws and stuff, but Hitler was targeted against same-sex couples, um, gypsies. I don't know what that was. And then it was targeted against a certain race, and then it put like a stigma on them. So history repeats itself. So I see some of the same patterns going on now, and it's terrifying. But the only thing we have to fear is fear itself, is when we don't open our eyes to really what's going on, and we have a stigma. The thing is, a stigma is basically puts like a distaste on people and try to paint them in a picture that is evil. They try to paint a picture as they're evil because they're not, let's say they're in a same-sex relationship, so they try to paint them as they're evil. But I'm going to tell you, my best friends growing up were lesbians. I don't know what the correct term is, but they like the same-sex people, okay? And, so this is a thing. So they show these pictures of, they put they put a label on it, okay? And also 5 million people included mentally disabled, or what, they're not disabled people. If we have a feeling, a strong feeling, like let's say you have anxiety, everybody has anxiety. Some people just have it more because they've gone through stuff. So the thing is getting to the root of it. But it doesn't mean that you're mentally ill. This is what they put a label on, mentally ill. So if you have something, it's not for everybody to know about. You can discuss it in groups. I'm not saying it's a stigma, but this is what people do. They put labels on it, and it's supposed to be a stigma. And it basically, like the Jewish people, they had to wear a star, and that identified them as being Jewish. And they took their businesses and stuff from them, and they put them into ghettos and stuff. And this is what it was called, ghettos. They had barbed wire, and it was deplorable conditions. This is what they did to the people. And the plan was they had them sign postcards when they shipped them off to these supposedly work camps or whatever. I don't know what it was. They had them sign postcards to their family stating that they were okay when they were dead because Hitler killed these people. It's terrifying, you know? and they got diseases and stuff in the places where they went. It was by starvation, malnutrition, and stuff. So he killed 11 million people during the Holocaust. And, there's stories, there's documents of it. They have the shoes from the people, there's museums. But history repeats itself if we're not educated, you know? So you see on the TV sometimes they put like a stereotype on, groups and stuff, and it portrays them as, and then you get a mass people, and that's the fear, is the mass people going against these people is what is the problem. We need to love people how they are. You can't change, just because someone's not the same race as you, or they're not the same, if they're in a same-sex marriage, what does it matter? People are good people no matter what. There's bad people that's in straight marriages, and there's good people that's in straight marriages. It depends on the person itself. So my thing is, we have to look at history. So Hitler was targeting one group of people. He wanted to exterminate them. And this has been repeated in history. You see it now. But I'm talking about then we can see history repeat. So this is why I wanted to share this, because it separates us. It doesn't bring us together. It tries to separate us, because when we're apart, we're weaker. When we're together in community, we're stronger. No matter where you live, we're stronger. But what they tried to do is they tried to separate you and try to put a bad name on people, labels on people, so that they're targeted, and they try to portray them as, they'll show the worst of something, but they don't show the whole entire thing. But if you were calling me a racial slur and just attacking me because of my sexual identity, of course you're going to get a conflict. So this is what people will portray. So there's always two sides of the story. you know all of us have family members maybe we're not proud of, but we don't shun them. Don't shun your family because maybe they're going through addictions and stuff. Try to help them, try to love them, because these were the people that they tried to, basically they took healthcare from Jewish people, and that's the same thing now. So what you see is they took, I'm pretty sure this, I want to watch what I say on here, but what's going on now, a lot of people are losing their health care, okay? And these are people that are in unfortunate circumstances, okay? They don't have the money, like, middle class, even middle class is struggling, but a lot of people are losing their health care because they stripped it of them. They took away to get married and stuff, because they don't agree with this. It was already given to them. It's like we have to open our eyes and really look at the people. Do you really hate people? No. You don't let people plant that seed in your mind. And this is, you have to watch what you watch. It's your choice, but I'm telling you, all it does, if you watch certain media, it will portray people as, it just targets that one group. And that's what you can see in history. This is how people start to turn against one another. And you did have good people to stand up, but it was a lot of people that just went along, and then people that joined this atrocity, what they did to the people, and hardened their, like, how could you take another person's life. Hey Gator, how are you? So I'm not the same person. I'm the same person. I'm Stephanie. But after I was reading the book, God told me to go get the books from the library about the Holocaust. But like I said, some of the wording is slurs, which is not appropriate. So I have to watch what I put. But, they say certain things, which I guess back in the day, but this is exactly what they were doing to the people. They were putting slurs on people and, using the Bible as a way of to target these people. Supposedly Hitler was a Christian, okay? And that kind of disgusts me, because I'm a Christian, but I'm not evil like that. Like, you have to look at the people. There's evil and then there's good. You know what I'm saying? But if we don't, this is why they said people that don't know their history are doomed to repeat it. We have to know our history. Instead of just trying to become famous on this platform, we need to open our eyes and to really what's going on. I implore our Congress people to stand up, but it's up to us as a community because we are the people. The people in our community, we are the people. We're the ones that supposed to put these people in, and our leaders. But as far as our neighbors and stuff, it's up to us to really extend a hand and to teach people how to love other people, not look to the government to tell us how to love people. No, you love people regardless. If they want to be prejudiced or they want to put a stereotype on people, you don't have to go along with that. The only reason something goes and starts to take effect is when people are following that. But if people don't follow that, which you shouldn't, but I can't tell you what to do, then it doesn't take off. It's like your business, where you shop and stuff. Uh, that's what they did to Jewish people too. They banned them from having, they basically, you couldn't buy goods from them and stuff, and it was terrible. They weren't allowed to be dentists, doctors, they weren't allowed to marry, it was, but you see a lot of these patterns repeating themselves. But like I told you, the one video, it was it was slurs against certain sexual identity. So I had to delete it because I didn't even realize I was just reading the book. But like I told you, I have family members that are married to same sex. I have best friends that are married, they're lesbians, or I don't want to watch what I say, but they're in same sex relationships, but they were always good to me growing up. And it's, I know what the struggle is when you don't have food, and for the people taking the food stamps and money away from the food pantry, like you're taking food away from the poor. Take it away from the rich people and give it to the poor people. What, you're gonna make the poor people suffer more? They're already suffering because it's just every day you're trying to get by, okay? you know hey Jean, how are you? Every day people are trying to survive, but the elite rich don't really understand this. They have no idea. But some people do because they have family members. You're going to have all different family members, so you're hoping to God somebody who's up in that office understands. And we have rights as citizens, but sometimes people just, they use their platform for bad. But then, even targeting, and then you get people that are so just, I don't know what it is. Because they got to have somebody in their life that is, maybe in a same-sex marriage or a friend, or if they exclude everybody, that's a crazy way to live. People want to control other people, but I wanted to share this because this was pressing on my heart, and I'm like, inside I feel disgusted because I call myself a Christian, and this guy, Adolf Hitler, basically used Christian as a way of do. He called himself, but it's a wolf in sheep's clothing. Okay, there's bad people and supposedly supposed to be there, but no matter what it is, it doesn't matter. Labels mean nothing. It means how you treat people at the end of the day. But we have to look at now, because if you see some of the things, history is repeating itself in a different way, but it's the same patterns, but it's different, right? I'm sure Demi can see it and Jean can see it and stuff. It's I think certain books were even banned from schools or whatever, and that's crazy because back in the day Hitler burned Jewish books, and that this banned books. Why are they banning books? That's scary. But we don't need to fear. You can go to the library. That's how I got the books. Utilize your public library. It's free. It's for everybody. The only thing I did, I told my librarian, I said, do you have any books on the Holocaust? She brought me to a section. It's in the juvenile section, but they're very educational, and it's got the pictures, but that's where most of them are because the kids are studying like World War II usually. So this is where I got the books from, and I got the Diary of Anne Frank. I'm gonna read that. But I didn't really realize how many people were killed during the Holocaust, but same patterns are like repeating themselves, so it's quite disturbing. you know so as our community, no matter where you are, we're community, whether you're across the world or whether you're my next door neighbor, we're community. This is we the people. It's not them, just the elite people in the office. No, it's we the people. We, me and you and I are stand together, because at the end of the day, they don't care really if the poor people are going without food, because they're taking the food stamps from them. How low can you possibly go? How low can you possibly go? Where's the fear of God? They need to they need to cut that from the bill. Crazy, right? Thank God for books and history and people that documented this stuff. And I had people on my live stream yesterday telling me it's not as bad as you think. No, it's worse than we even know about, because when you read the books, I mean, I don't know how somebody could even sit there and say that. I guess if you're just brainwashed on basically just what you're hearing from other people, because people can water it down. But I'm going to, tell you how when I see something, how I feel about it. You can't take my feelings from me, because it's horrible, terrible, awful. This guy was a evil person, but we can't close our eyes to what's going on now. We can't close our eyes and just shut it and think that that is can't happen again, because it's happening. It's not happening in that way, but it's almost like you see certain things in it. You know what I'm saying? If you look, watch the news and know what's going on, you can see patterns of what's going on. It's not, you know, um, without due process, people are getting without due process. That's just crazy. That could happen to any of us. It's scary. That's not okay. That's not okay. But anyways, history repeats itself if we are ignorant to it. We need to wake up and open our eyes. But this was pressing on my heart, and it just, I don't know. I'm reading the books, but it's a bit heavy. I can't take it all in at one time. I did read the book on the museum. It's in Washington D.C. You can actually go on the website. If you can't get to Washington D.C., you can get on there, and they'll actually give you like a tour of it, and then you can see the thing. But it is like you need some time just to kind of process this stuff. And I don't know, it's really horrible what happened to the Jewish people, and even people that are, you know, you're not ill because you have something going on with your body. You know what I'm saying? It's not you're mentally ill. Something's going on with your brain balance or whatever, and that's all. There could be a chemical, basically, but stuff happens in our life that just messes up our head, okay? If you grew up in a horrible household where everybody was terrible, how are you supposed to feel? These are the people that are supposed to show you love and nurture. But a lot of people don't turn. It just you have a lot of hurt inside, so you have to process this. But sometimes it's just too painful. But however which way you can process it. But Demi says you're a good soul. Stuff. God bless you, Demi. I know. Yes, history will repeat if we don't learn. That's what Jean says. We have to learn about our history, and I guess I'm kind of ignorant of some stuff. But in school they give us. I remember going to Ellis Island, and we went there 2 times to Statue of Liberty, but I remember having this like a good feeling. But I felt like, because you look at the Statue of Liberty, they're bringing us to Ellis Island and stuff, and this is how people would come in, and this is when they were coming from, you know, um, Germany and over there in the Europe, they were coming in like my ancestors and stuff, and this is how they came in. But you had to go through all these tests and stuff, and I don't know, it was an excruciating process, but it's just freedom when you see that the Statue of Liberty, that's what the Statue of Liberty is supposed to represent, is our freedom. When they came here was a new life, because they could have opportunity, the land of the free. Demi says, I grew up with prayer in school. I remember we would say the Pledge of Allegiance. I don't know if my teacher ever prayed. I don't know if they did. We didn't have like a Catholic school or anything. My sisters went to Catholic school, you know. Yeah, I wish they put prayer back in school. They probably, because of what's, I guess because people are going to use, sometimes the kids use their religion, but if they just say under God, you know, that's probably why. Uh, but that's all, you know. But the main thing is showing showing each other love and just being a good neighbor. That's the most important thing. You know, we can't rely on somebody else to do it. What can we do instead of turning a blind eye? You know, stand up for someone who is in a group that's targeted. Stand by their side. You know, don't stand with the people who are pointing their fingers and trying to paint people as they're bad just because, you know, they can't accept one another in love. Yes, maybe that's not your lifestyle, but we can still learn to love one another, you know. Hatred is not part of God. He doesn't hate anybody. There's no hatred in God, you know. The thing is, when we know what to do and we're full of hatred, he wants to break that down, you know. So because hatred doesn't belong God is love. There's no hatred in him. So if somebody's claiming that they're, you know, religious, blah blah blah, and they're full of hatred, it's a cover up for their way. You know, people, this is what they do. Everybody, some people use it in the name of blah blah blah. You know, fill in the blanks. But at the end of the day, how are you treating other people? You know, look at this, guys. Well, I got done early today, but I wanted to share this because this was really pressing on my heart. But after reading those books yesterday, I got like this enormous sadness because I didn't know all these things that took place during the Holocaust. Because, like I said, you only learn some of it in school. You don't learn really all of it. You know, we don't really know all of it, but we know how many people died, and we know how Hitler killed the people. You know, by the poisonous gas and killing them and stuff. It's horrible what he did. He malnutrition and typhus diseases. So but we have to look at now what is going on and not be okay with people targeting people because they're from another place, because that's the same thing what and the Jewish people lived in Germany. That was their country, and they lived there, and they were targeted, and they rounded them up, and they put them into deplorable conditions, you know, and it's terrible. But there's things that are repeating itself now. So it's very alarming, you know. So we have to educate ourselves and learn from the history, you know, of what is this? Is this a pattern of some type, you know? And don't stand with the people that are full of hatred, because that's not God. And do you really want to be that person? I don't. I don't. That's not me. I love people, you know. And that's it. Because at the end of the day, community is you and I, me and you and me. I mean, everybody. You know what I'm saying? It's us that are supposed to care for one another. Look out for your neighbor, you know. The Allies took the German citizens through the camps after the war because they had no idea that how Hitler did. The Allies took the German citizens through the camps. Yeah, it says on there was only about so many people that were tried. So it's like a mass cover up, and they try to cover up everything. But you know, they have a shrine to the when they went into gas chambers and stuff like this, and they even built that. They had the Jewish people build this brick by brick. It's horrible. But you had some Jewish people fighting. I think they had Jewish alliance or something where they were in the woods, and they did try to fight back, but the Germans wound up getting them. But they did fight. They tried to, you know. But this, I just wanted to share this. So when I share that book, I'm going to change some of the words because, like I said, I don't want to have no slurs because that's not me. And I didn't realize when I was reading the book that this was like that. But that's how they classified the people back in the day. But when somebody comes on my channel, they might get the totally wrong idea. And like I said, I have family members that are married to same sex. And I have best friends that are in same-sex relationships, and so it offends me greatly. Okay, and I have friends on here that are in same-sex marriages, so for me it offends me because these are good people, and I just love is the greatest thing of all, you know. So that's all I wanted to share with you guys. If you want to share something with me, um, that's good, but we do need to learn from our history. I just that's all. I have a lot to learn, but I can't take it all in the whole entire week because it's just a lot to process. Because it's like, I know I probably have some family that was affected by it because I'm Hungarian, you know. I don't know, you know, but I can go back, you know. I know my grandmom's surname, and I think it is Jewish. So I don't want to say it on here, but I believe her her mom was Jewish, you know, because she was on Hungarian. They were Hungarian, but I believe some of her family was Jewish. So that means that is part. But it still affects me. It still affects all of us, you know. Doesn't matter if you are Jewish, but I'm saying if you go, this is can repeat itself, you know, but different patterns. It doesn't do the same exact thing, but you see the similarities in it. That's the thing. Okay, guys? Well, God bless you, and I hope you have a good day. All right, take care, guys. Thank you for joining me, Demi and Jean, and I think somebody else was up here. Not sure who this is. I don't know how to say name. Thank you for coming in. Have a good day.